I have a major headline for you that is only meaningful if you know how to interpret the data. The headline is Kamala Harris leads Trump by 27 among Latino voters. Wow. I mean, that's awesome, right? Or is it? Well, you need to understand the history of these data. So let's start with an NBC News report. Harris-Trump race is tighter among English-speaking Latinos, poll shows. While she leads Trump with Latinos overall, Harris does far better with Spanish-speaking and bilingual households than with English-speaking ones. This is a poll that was done of 3,000 Latino voters. 59% say they would vote Harris, whereas 32% say they would vote Trump. That's a 27-point advantage for Kamala Harris over Trump among Latino voters. As the article points out, if you look at English-speaking Latino households versus bilingual or Spanish-speaking Latino households, it is not quite so good. But here is the most important thing. This is a smaller margin. This is a smaller margin than in previous elections. And compared to Joe Biden. For example, Joe Biden in 2020 got 65% of the Latino vote compared to Trump's 32. In other words, when we say, wow, Kamala Harris leads by 27 among Latino voters, well, Biden won Latino voters by 33. That 6 percentage point difference in the right states could make a major difference in the eventual outcome of the election. So like with many of these data points, what do we do with it? Well, we recognize there is something happening here where some groups of Latino voters, typically Cuban, Venezuelan, but there are others as well, are leaning a little bit more away from the Democratic candidate and towards Donald Trump than we might expect and more than we've seen in historical elections. Does it change the totality of the election picture? No, it doesn't, particularly because we're also seeing a larger than normal gender gap in favor of Kamala Harris. Well, the larger gender gap, where women are supporting Harris by a larger degree, could counteract the smaller gap for Harris when it comes to Latino voters. We can't do anything other than making sure that we're registered to vote, that we plan to vote, and that we tell our friends the importance of voting. But if you're looking for indicators relative to 2020, there are some that look better, like the gender gap, and there are some, like the 27-point lead among Latino voters, smaller than Biden's victory in 2020 among that group, that are more cause for concern. Now, an interesting little note, the White House, recognizing that I am Latino, has invited me to an event in D.C. for Hispanic Heritage Month. And so that's in a few weeks. I'm looking forward to being there. I will report back to you. This is an event with President Joe and Dr. Jill Biden, not a medical doctor, as I know many of the MAGA people will point out. David, you're going to D.C. and you think you're meeting with a medical doctor? It is not like a private meeting with the Bidens. It's an event probably with hundreds of people at the White House, but it should be very interesting. Curious to see what the dynamic will be like, given that Joe Biden is stepping aside with regard to the election. So I'll tell you when it's coming up. And of course, I will fill you in on what happens there, but very, very interesting to see. Let's take a very quick break. An incredible story involving Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, Russia, Tenet Media, and an indictment. This is an incredible story. We'll talk about it right after this short break. You can't vapor smoke inside. You're tired of people seeing you put those little pouches in your lip. There is a nicotine alternative that people won't notice. Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Our sponsor Zippix makes the only nicotine toothpick on the planet that is FDA registered. You can use it anywhere: work, restaurants, airplanes, sporting events, after a meal. The toothpicks stay in a convenient little tube that goes in your pocket or on your keychain. It's way more convenient than carrying around a huge can of pouches all day or a whole bunch of gum or whatever the case may be. Zippix nicotine toothpicks come in flavors like peppermint watermelon, sweet wood, cinnamon, whiskey. If you're not a nicotine user, try out their B12 toothpicks with caffeine instead, a quick and easy alternative to coffee. Do your lungs a favor, cut the cigarette smoke, cut the vape juice. Go to zippixtoothpicks.com today. Save 10% with the code PACMAN10 at checkout. Just remember, you must be 21 or older to order. The link is down below.